The explosion tore through the docking bay 3 seconds before the alarms could scream. Molten metal sprayed across the deck as the freighter's engine core ruptured, sending a shockwave that knocked Commander Jake Harrison off his feet. He scrambled upward, ears ringing, vision blurred by smoke and emergency lights strobing red across the chaos. "Get that fire suppressed now!" Lieutenant Carla Mitchell barked into her comm, already sprinting toward the flames with an extinguisher. The Terran Defense Station orbiting Kepler 442b shuddered as secondary explosions rippled through the damaged vessel. 300 souls aboard and the structural integrity was failing fast. Jake wiped blood from his temple and ran. The freighter's hull groaned like a dying animal. Through the smoke, he could see crew members dragging injured personnel toward the airlocks. The docking clamps were failing. If that ship broke free during evacuation, it would tear half the station apart. "Harrison, the coupling's going critical," someone shouted. He didn't need the reminder. His hands flew across the emergency panel, fingers dancing through override sequences while his mind calculated odds he didn't like. 60 seconds until catastrophic separation, maybe less. Carla appeared beside him, face streaked with soot. "Engineering says they can't stabilize it remotely. Then I'm going in." Jake grabbed a pressure suit from the wall locker. "That's suicide. The radiation levels are exactly why it has to be manual." He sealed the helmet and checked his oxygen. 40 minutes of air. More than enough to either fix this or die trying. The airlock cycled. Jake pushed into the connecting tunnel where twisted metal screamed against itself. Heat signatures on his visor showed the engine room glowing white-hot. He moved fast, magnetic boots clanging against the deck plating. Every second counted, every heartbeat brought them closer to losing everything. Inside the engine room, the core pulsed like an angry sun. Coolant lines had ruptured. The main drive was seconds from going supercritical. Jake's radiation counter clicked faster than his racing pulse. He reached for the manual override, a massive lever that required both hands and full body weight. "Harrison, your exposure's already past safe limits." Carla's voice crackled through static. "Noted." He pulled. The lever didn't budge. Hydraulics were dead. He braced his feet and pulled again. Muscles screaming, suit joints protesting. Still nothing. The core's pulse accelerated. His counter became a continuous shriek. Jake thought about his sister back on Earth, about the colony ships full of families passing through this sector tomorrow, about 300 people who'd never see home again if he failed. He roared and pulled with everything he had. The lever moved. Inch by grinding inch, it descended. Emergency coolant flooded the core. The white-hot glow began to fade. Jake collapsed against the bulkhead, chest heaving, watching the temperature readings drop into yellow zones. Green zones. "Safe. Core. Stabilized. Get medical teams ready. We're bringing everyone home." Jake stumbled out of the airlock 17 minutes later, his suit's radiation badges glowing crimson. The medical team swarmed him immediately, scanners chirping urgent warnings. He waved them off, eyes scanning the bay for casualties. 18 injured? No fatalities. The freighter crew was safe. "You just absorbed enough rads to cook your DNA," the chief medical officer snapped, jabbing a hypo into his neck. "Medbay. Now." After debrief. Jake pulled his helmet off and immediately regretted it. The world tilted sideways. Carla caught him before he hit the deck. "Stubborn idiot," she muttered, supporting his weight. "You're going to medical whether you like it or not." He wanted to argue, but his legs had stopped taking orders. The adrenaline was crashing hard, leaving nothing but pain and exhaustion. They loaded him onto a gurney and wheeled him through corridors packed with refugees from the damaged freighter. Families huddled together, children crying. The raw aftermath of near disaster. In Medbay, the scanners painted a grim picture. Radiation poisoning. Severe muscle strain. Broken ribs he hadn't noticed during the crisis. The doctor administered a cocktail of anti-radiation meds and cellular repair nanites, then sentenced him to 48 hours of observation. Jake drifted in and out of medicated sleep, his body fighting the radiation damage at a molecular level. When he finally surfaced 12 hours later, Carla was sitting beside his bed, reviewing damage reports on a datapad. "Station's holding together," she said without looking up. "Barely." That freighter's captain wants to thank you personally. Says you saved his entire family. Just doing my job. Your job doesn't include suicide runs into active radiation zones." Now she looked at him, and her expression was harder than hull plating. "Command's talking about a commendation. I'm talking about a psych eval. Nobody sane does what you did." Before Jake could respond, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then died completely. Emergency power kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in red. Carla was already on her feet, comm unit active. "Mitchell to ops." "What just happened?" Static answered her. Then a voice, distorted and wrong. "Primary power offline. Cause unknown. Engineering teams not responding." Jake sat up despite the doctor's protests. Something cold settled in his gut. Station-wide power failures didn't just happen. Not on military installations. With triple redundant systems. "Get me a suit," he told Carla. "You're in no condition." "Now, Lieutenant." They made it to the command center in 4 minutes. What they found stopped them cold. Every console was dark except for one, and that one displayed a message in text that seemed to crawl across the screen like living things. "Attention Terran Defense Station Sentinel 7. You have been selected for evaluation. Your species claims strength, courage, adaptability. We shall test these claims. You have 24 hours to restore full power and life support. Fail, and everyone dies. Succeed, and we will reveal ourselves. The trial begins now." The message vanished. Systems throughout the command center began shutting down one by one, like dominoes falling in slow motion. Life support indicators dropped from green to yellow. Commander Stevens, the station's CO, stood frozen at the main display. "What in hell is this?" Jake moved to the nearest functional terminal and started running diagnostics. What he found made no sense. The power grid hadn't failed. It had been deliberately severed at 100 different points simultaneously, each cut precise and surgical. No human crew could move that fast. "We've got company," Carla said quietly, pointing at the external sensors. "Multiple contacts. Just appeared on scanners. No warp signatures, no drive emissions. They're just there." Jake pulled up the visual feed. His blood went cold. Ships, dozens of them. Sleek and massive, their hulls a flowing silver that seemed to shift and change as he watched. They hung in perfect formation around the station, like predators circling wounded prey. "Broadcast on all frequencies," Stevens ordered. "Demand identification and intent." The communications officer tried, failed, tried again. "Sir, our transmitters are being jammed. No outgoing signals at all. Then we're cut off." Jake's mind raced through options, discarding each one as fast as it appeared. No power, no comms. Unknown hostiles with technology that made Terran systems look like stone tools. And 24 hours before thousands of people started suffocating. He looked at Carla, then at Stevens. "We need to get engineering teams to every power junction simultaneously. Manual reconnection if we have to." Stevens nodded. "Make it happen." "And Harrison, sir? Whatever these things are, they just made a mistake. They picked a fight with humans." The commander's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Let's show them what that means." The first engineering team died 6 minutes into the repair attempt. No warning, no attack. They simply stopped responding. When Jake and Carla reached Junction 73 in the lower decks, they found all 4 engineers standing motionless, eyes glazed, tools fallen at their feet. "Stevens, we have a problem," Jake spoke into his comm. "The team at 73 is compromised. They're alive but unresponsive." One of the engineers turned her head slowly, mechanically, as if pulled by invisible strings. Her mouth opened, and that same distorted voice emerged. "You move too predictably. You coordinate poorly. Your species relies on hierarchy when adaptation is required. This is your first failure." Then she collapsed. All 4 engineers dropped simultaneously, breathing, but unconscious. Carla checked vitals. "They're stable. Whatever hit them, it's not permanent." "Not yet," Jake muttered. He studied the power junction. The cuts were impossibly clean, molecular-level precision. Reconnecting would require equipment they didn't have, and time they couldn't spare. We need another approach. Back in command, the situation had deteriorated. Life support was at 60% and dropping. The station's population of 4,000 was being consolidated into the core sections to conserve oxygen. Panic was spreading faster than the emergency protocols could contain it. Stevens looked like he'd aged 10 years in an hour. 19 engineering teams deployed. 11 have gone dark. The ones still functional report the same thing. The damage is too extensive for manual repair. Then we stopped trying to fix their puzzle, Jake said. We build our own solution. Explain. They cut our primary grid. Fine. We bypass it completely. The station has 47 independent fusion reactors for emergency backup. Normally they're isolated, but if we link them in series using the secondary conduit system, we can create a temporary grid. Crude, inefficient, but functional. Carla pulled up the schematics. That conduit system was never designed to handle that kind of load. We'd be risking overload at every junction. Better than suffocating. Jake traced the connections with his finger. We split into 3 teams, hit reactors 1 through 16, 17 through 32, and 33 through 47 simultaneously. Link them fast before whatever's controlling this station figures out what we're doing. Steven studied the plan for 5 seconds. Do it. Mitchell, take Team 2. Harrison, Team 3. I'll handle Team 1 personally. They scattered. Jake grabbed 6 crew members who looked more angry than scared and headed deep into the station's mechanical heart. The emergency lighting cast everything in shades of blood and shadow. Somewhere above them, those silver ships waited and watched. Reactor 33 came online without incident. So did 34 and 35. Too easy, Jake thought. They're letting us do this. The question was why. At Reactor 39, he got his answer. The room was filled with light. Not emergency lighting, but something else. Something that moved and breathed and seemed aware. It coalesced into a shape. Humanoid, but wrong. Its edges blurring like static. Interesting, it said with 1,000 voices layered into one. You adapt. You improvise. These are useful traits. But can you sacrifice? The light shape gestured. Every crew member except Jake froze solid, encased in crystalline barriers that appeared from nowhere. Your solution will work, the voice continued. The remaining reactors will provide sufficient power, but only if someone manually activates the core synchronization. The radiation exposure will be fatal within seconds. There is no protective suit sufficient for this task. So we ask, will you trade 1 life to save thousands? Will you choose who dies, or will you let them all perish together? Jake's mind raced. The synchronization chamber was behind a sealed door marked with radiation warnings that made his previous exposure look like a suntan. Nobody could survive in there long enough to complete the sequence. Why? He demanded. Why test us like this? Because the galaxy is cruel, human. Because 1,000 species have risen and fallen, and 90% failed at moments exactly like this. 1. We are the architects. We measure worthiness. You claim to be special. Prove it. The light shape vanished. The crystalline barriers remained. Jake's crew stared at him with desperate eyes, unable to speak, unable to move. He looked at the radiation chamber door, thought about the math. 15 seconds to reach the controls, 20 to input the sequence, maybe 10 more before his nervous system shut down completely. 45 seconds of unshielded exposure to radiation that would rewrite his cells into chaos. He thought about his sister, about never seeing Earth again, about dying alone in a metal coffin while his DNA unraveled. Then he thought about 4,000 people, about children in the refugee sections, about the engineer who'd been used as a puppet and the crews frozen in crystal, and every person on this station who'd done nothing except exist in the wrong place at the wrong time. Jake opened his comm one last time. Stevens, Mitchell, I'm activating synchronization manually. The grid will come online in approximately 60 seconds. Get everyone to safe zones, and tell my sister. He paused. Tell her I fixed it. He sealed the channel before anyone could argue, before anyone could try to stop him, before his courage could fail. The radiation chamber door opened with a hiss. Jake stepped through into light so bright it burned. The radiation hit like a physical wall, scorching his lungs with the first breath. Jake's skin prickled instantly, cells screaming as atomic particles tore through tissue. Every instinct demanded he retreat, but he forced his legs forward. The synchronization panel glowed 15 feet away. Might as well have been 15 miles. 10 seconds in, his vision started to blur. He stumbled against a coolant pipe, the metal searing his palm even through his uniform. The pain felt distant, muted, as if happening to someone else. His fingers found the panel, started entering the sequence. Code string 1. Accepted. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely see the keys. Code string 2. Error. He tried again. Accepted. 20 seconds. Blood vessels in his eyes were rupturing. Everything was red-tinted now. The world viewed through a crimson filter. He could taste copper and something worse, something that meant his body was eating itself from the inside. Code string 3. The panel's text swam in and out of focus. Was that a 6 or an 8? His fingers pressed buttons by memory more than sight. Accepted. 30 seconds. His legs gave out. Jake collapsed against the panel, using his body weight to stay upright. Just 2 more strings. 2 more impossible sequences while his nervous system dissolved. Then something changed. The radiation didn't stop, but suddenly he could breathe through it. The pain was still there, still catastrophic, but his mind cleared, his vision sharpened. He looked down and saw his hands glowing with the same crystalline barrier that had trapped his crew. "No," he rasped. "I don't want your help." The architect's voice filled the chamber. "You misunderstand. This is not help. This is observation. We suspended cellular collapse so we can witness your choice with clarity. You still die when this ends, human. We simply wish to see if you complete the task knowing salvation is impossible." Jake's laugh came out as a wet cough. "You don't get it. I wasn't trying to survive. I was trying to save them." Code string 4. His fingers moved steadily now, protected by barriers he despised. Accepted. Your species lacks the hive mentality that drives most sapient sacrifice. Yet you act against self-interest anyway. Explain this paradox. We call it being decent. Jake started the final sequence. You wouldn't understand. The architect was silent for 3 heartbeats. Incorrect. We understand perfectly. We simply wish to confirm that humans possess this trait under genuine duress, not merely in theoretical scenarios. Many species perform altruism when observed. Few maintain it when death is certain. Code string 5. Jake's finger hovered over the final key. So this was all theater? You could have stopped this any time? Yes, but theater reveals truth. Your species has been expanding aggressively through this sector. We needed to know if you were conquerors or survivors, destroyers or builders. The distinction matters greatly for what comes next. And you sacrificed yourself for strangers? Your commander sent teams into danger while leading from the front. Your engineer calculated impossible odds and attempted them anyway. Your species does not optimize for individual survival. This is simultaneously your greatest weakness and your most valuable strength. Jake pressed the final key. The synchronization sequence completed. Throughout the station, 47 reactors linked into a unified grid. Power flooded through secondary conduits. Life support surged from critical to stable. Lights blazed back to life in every corridor and chamber. The crystalline barrier around Jake dissolved. The radiation resumed its work immediately, but something else was happening too. His crew members in the outer room were freed from their prisons. The unconscious engineers throughout the station began waking. The silver ships outside pulled back from their threatening formations. Jake collapsed to his knees. His body was shutting down in cascading waves of system failure. He'd bought maybe 2 minutes with that barrier protection, but 2 minutes meant nothing against this level of exposure. The architect's voice was quieter now, almost gentle. You have passed our evaluation, Jake Harrison. Humanity has proven worthy of contact, but this victory comes with cost we did not anticipate. Spare me the eulogy. His words were barely whispers. Blood was leaking from his eyes, his nose, his ears. Just tell me they're safe. They are. All 4,000 souls aboard this station live because you chose their lives over yours. We miscalculated your durability. We believed you would survive long enough for us to intervene with medical technology before critical damage occurred. We were wrong. Jake tried to laugh, but managed only a wet rasp. So you're not as smart as you thought? Apparently not. We are sorry, Jake Harrison. Your species will join the galactic community with full honors. Your sacrifice will be remembered by 1 billion worlds. But these facts will not save you. Don't need saving. His vision was going dark around the edges. Just needed to fix it. The chamber door burst open. Medical teams poured in with equipment that looked human and alien pieces that definitely weren't. Carla was there too, her face twisted with fury and grief. "You stupid, stubborn, heroic idiot," she said, dropping beside him. "You should have waited. We would have found another way. No time." Jake could barely see her now. "Did it work?" "Everything's back online. Full power. Everyone's safe." Her voice cracked. "Everyone except you." The alien medical equipment hummed and chirped around him. The architects were trying something, flooding his body with technology that fought the radiation at cellular levels. But some damage was too fundamental to reverse. Some choices had consequences no technology could erase. Jake felt himself slipping away. Somewhere distant, alarms were screaming. Carla was shouting orders. The architects were speaking in urgent tones about neural patterns and consciousness preservation. But Jake Harrison was done fighting. He'd fixed it. That was enough. Jake's eyes snapped open. Wrong. That was impossible. Dead men didn't wake up. Dead men didn't feel the soft hum of medical equipment or smell the sharp antiseptic of a hospital bay. Dead men definitely didn't see Carla Mitchell sitting beside their bed, looking like she hadn't slept in days. "You're awake." Her voice was flat, controlled, but her eyes were red-rimmed. "The doctors said you might not ever wake up." Jake tried to speak. His throat felt like sandpaper. Carla held a water tube to his lips. He drank, then managed to whisper. "How long?" 5 days. Your body was clinically dead for 8 minutes before they stabilized you. The architects used technology we don't even have names for yet. Rebuilt your cells from genetic templates, flushed the radiation damage. Basically reassembled you atom by atom. She leaned back, arms crossed. You're the first human to die and come back this completely. The station, fully operational. Everyone's fine. The architects stuck around for 3 days, then left. But they left us gifts, medical technology, power systems, communication arrays that make our best equipment look like tin cans, and a message. Jake pushed himself upright despite his body's protests. Every muscle felt new, untested, like he was learning to inhabit his own skin. What message? Carla pulled up a holographic display. The architect's voice emanated from it, clear and resonant. Humanity, you have demonstrated qualities rare in emerging species: selflessness under pressure, innovation during crisis, willingness to sacrifice for the collective good. We invite you to join the Galactic Accord as full members. Your fleets will have access to 70,000 star systems. Your colonies will receive protection and trade rights. Your people will learn from civilizations millions of years old. The message paused, then continued in a different tone, more personal. To Jake Harrison specifically, if you survive our attempt at resurrection, your species names its bravest as heroes. We name you something more. Friend. The Accord has not used this designation for a new species in 12,000 years. You earned it by choosing death over dishonor. We will remember. The hologram faded. Jake sat in silence, processing. Humanity had just been handed the keys to the galaxy because he'd pushed some buttons while dying. It felt absurd and monumental at the same time. "There's more," Carla said quietly. "The freighter captain you saved? His daughter's an engineer. She's been working with the architect technology, trying to understand how it integrates with our systems. She asked to meet you when you woke up. Why? You'll see." 20 minutes later, after Jake had convinced the medical staff he could walk without collapsing, Carla led him through corridors that looked subtly different. The walls had new panels, sleeker and more efficient. The lighting was warmer, more natural. Architect upgrades were everywhere. They reached Engineering Base 7. Inside, a young woman with dark hair and grease-stained hands was elbow-deep in a power conduit, speaking rapid-fire technical jargon to 3 assistants. When she saw Jake, she stopped mid-sentence. "Commander Harrison." She wiped her hands on a rag and extended one. "I'm Nicole Grant. You saved my father, my mother, and my baby brother. I've been waiting to thank you." Jake shook her hand. "You don't need to thank me for doing my job."
"Maybe not.
"But I need to show you something anyway." She led him to a workbench where something small and mechanical sat beneath a protective cover. The architects left specifications for integration technology, devices that let human equipment interface with their systems. "I've been building prototypes." She lifted the cover. Underneath was a metallic collar, intricate and beautiful, covered in patterns that seemed to shift and breathe. "It's a translation matrix," Nicole explained. "Allows real-time communication with any species in the Accord. But that's not the interesting part." She picked up the collar carefully. The architects based their technology on resonance patterns, consciousness signatures. They don't just build machines. They build relationships between living things and tools. Jake was starting to understand where this was going, but the logic didn't make sense yet. Nicole continued. 3 days ago, a ship docked. Small transport, barely big enough for supplies. The pilot said it was a gift from the architects. For you, specifically. She led him to an adjacent bay. Inside was a sleek fighter craft, its hull that same flowing silver as the architect's ships. But sitting in the pilot's seat, curled up and sleeping, was something impossible. A cat. Not a Terran cat, though it was close. This one was larger, its fur a deep midnight blue that sparkled with points of light like stars. Its ears were swept back and delicate. When it opened its eyes, they glowed amber gold. "The architects call her a void stalker," Nicole said softly. "They're companions, partners. They bond with individuals they deem worthy and share consciousness during flight. This one was abandoned by her previous pilot 3 years ago, when he died in combat. She's been alone since then, waiting in some architect facility. When they scanned your neural patterns during resurrection," she responded, "recognized something in you." The cat stood, stretched, then leaped gracefully from the cockpit. It approached Jake with careful steps, studying him with those glowing eyes. "Nobody wants me," Nicole translated from the collar's readout. The cat's consciousness was being converted to words. That's what she's been broadcasting for 3 years. Nobody wants a stalker whose pilot died. Nobody wants the grief of bonding with something that's already lost once. The cat sat in front of Jake, tail curled around its paws, waiting. Jake knelt slowly, ignoring the protests from his rebuilt body. He extended a hand. The cat sniffed it, then pressed its forehead against his palm. Bond hit him like lightning. Suddenly he could feel the ship as if it were an extension of his body, could sense the cat's emotions, alien but comprehensible. Loneliness, hope, recognition of a kindred spirit who'd also died and been brought back. "Until a woman mechanic adopted her," Jake whispered, understanding flooding through him. Nicole laughed. "Not quite. Until a stubborn commander who doesn't know when to quit showed her that sometimes the broken things are worth saving. The cat. The stalker." The sound resonated through Jake's chest like a second heartbeat. Carla watched from the doorway, a rare smile crossing her face. "So, Harrison, you just became humanity's first bonded pilot. How does it feel?" Jake stood, the stalker moving with him in perfect synchronization. "Like I fixed something I didn't know was broken." "Good." Carla's smile turned sharp. "Because the architects just sent another message. They want you to represent humanity at the Accord Summit in 2 weeks. All 70 member species will be there, and they specifically requested you bring your new partner." Jake looked at the sleek fighter craft, then at the stalker, then at his hands that had died and been rebuilt. "Guess I'm not retiring anytime soon." "Not even close." Carla handed him a data chip. "Welcome to galactic politics, Commander. Try not to start any wars." The Accord Summit convened on a station older than human civilization. Crystal spires stretched across manufactured space, each representing a species that had survived the architect's trials. Jake stood in the diplomatic chamber, the stalker at his side, and felt 4,000 eyes from 70 different species watching his every movement. The head architect spoke, its form shimmering between solid and light. "We present humanity. Tested, proven, worthy." Applause came in forms Jake couldn't begin to describe. Sounds, colors, vibrations that bypassed his ears and resonated directly in his bones. The stalker pressed against his leg, offering comfort and confidence through their bond. An ambassador approached, insectoid and massive, its translator clicking. "Your species interests us. You choose death readily." "Is life so cheap to humans?" Jake met its multifaceted gaze. "Life's expensive. That's exactly why we protect it." The ambassador pondered this, mandibles working. "Fascinating paradox. We shall watch your development closely." More species came forward. Some offered trade. Others warned of dangers in unexplored sectors. A few simply wanted to understand the species that had impressed the architects so thoroughly. Jake answered each with honesty, aware that every word was shaping humanity's future among the stars. Hours later, when the formal proceedings ended, Jake found himself on an observation deck, overlooking a nebula that painted space in shades of impossible beauty. The stalker sat beside him, her starlight fur reflecting the cosmic display. Carla's voice came through his comm. "You survived diplomacy. I'm impressed." "Barely, y'all. How's the station?" "Thriving. We've got 3 alien species requesting docking rights. 2 want to establish embassies. And Steven's got promoted to Admiral. He's making you his second in command when you return." Jake smiled. "Sounds like things are changing fast. That's what happens when humans get invited to the big table. We don't sit quietly. You okay up there?" He thought about dying in that radiation chamber, about the choice that had seemed so simple in the moment and so complex in retrospect, about the cat that had chosen him, and the future that stretched out like the nebula before him, vast and unknowable and full of light. "Yeah," he said. "I fixed it," the stalker purred agreement. Through their bond, Jake felt her contentment. "Nobody wants me," she had whispered once, but she'd been wrong. Someone had wanted her. Someone had seen past the grief and loss to the strength underneath, just like someone had seen past humanity's violence and aggression to the courage and sacrifice beneath. The galaxy was dangerous. The architects had made that clear. There would be challenges ahead that made a failing power grid look simple, species that wouldn't welcome humanity's presence, threats that required more than improvisation and sacrifice. But humans had something most species lacked. They fixed impossible problems. They ran toward radiation chambers. They bonded with abandoned companions and turned trials into triumphs. Jake Harrison looked out at the stars, at the 70 species that were now humanity's allies, at the infinite possibilities waiting in the dark. "Nobody wants me," whispered the cat, until a woman mechanic adopted her. But the real story wasn't about wanting or being wanted. It was about humans doing what humans did best, finding the broken things, the impossible problems, the challenges everyone else had given up on, and fixing them anyway. The stalker stretched, her consciousness touching his through their bond, ready for the next mission, the next crisis, the next impossible choice. Jake scratched behind her ears, earning a rumbling purr that resonated through the deck plating. "Let's go home," he said. "We've got work to do." The stars waited. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would